We have been to the home of Grand Prix racing for the French Grand Prix. We've also been to the home of where the first ever Formula 1 World Championship event was held, at the British Grand Prix, and we are now here at the home of the evolution of the road car industry for the German Grand Prix. This is the 49th edition, and more importantly, the first race of the second part of the Formula 1 season. So welcome to the German Grand Prix. It's going to be a great race on Sunday. Now, we had an amazing event at the previous round in Silverstone. Really good, and won by Lewis Hamilton, who further extends his lead at the World Championship tables, obviously, as he is gunning for 6. The Hockenheim Ring is the location for the German Grand Prix. It had a very kind of weird background, the German Grand Prix, sharing its venue with the Nürburgring, or the Formula 1 style circuit of the Nürburgring. Had a few years in and out, but we are glad to be here. As I said, a Mercedes-Benz home, obviously only based in Germany, for a very bit of a home race for them. Obviously the two German drivers we have on the grid in Nico Hülkenberg and Sebastian Vettel, and of course a big race ahead of us, so it should be a very good event. 4.57 kilometers on the Hockenheim Ring, with 6-7 laps ahead of the drivers on Sunday, and make a race distance of 306 kilometres. It should be a very juicy race. The lap record is still held by Kimi Räikkönen, who set it back all the way in 2004, obviously in the old V10 era. He posted a lap of 1 minute 13.780. Now, that is very strange that it hasn't been beaten yet. A lot of tracks we have seen 2018 and even 2019 still standing, which is great. Obviously, the much faster cars of this era, but it's still good to see that the old V10s still are holding the lap record around here. Now, of course, 2018's race, with the weather and the different curveballs that race put in, made an amazing addition to the Hockenheim Ring, the 48th edition of Germany. But we are here for the 49s. First race all the way back in 1970, and it should be a good one. But first we get into the predictions, let's run you down the table after Silverstone and heading in to the second part of the Formula 1 season. Lewis Hamilton extends his lead at the top after his win in Silverstone to 223 points. Valtteri Bottas sits in second place with 184 points, with Max Verstappen 136. A strange race for him in Silverstone, but winning Austria has elevated him to third and a big lead over Sebastian Vettel, who sits in fourth place at 123 points. Worryingly for him, his teammate Charles Leclerc, winless, but with 120 points and 3 points behind the 4-time world champion. Pierre Gasly is the loser at 6th position, 55 points. Really, it is, after Charles Leclerc, the only way of winning the World Championship. Carlos Sainz in 38th point in 7th position, with Kimi Räikkönen in 8th position with 25 points. Lando Norris is in 9th place with 22 points, and to round off the top 10 is the Honey Badger himself, Daniel Ricciardo, with 22 points. Looking down the second part of the table, Nico Hülkenberg, 17 points with 11th position, the teammate of Daniel Ricciardo. Kevin Magnussen, the first of the two, passes in 12th place with 14 points. Sergio Perez is in 13th place with a matching 13 points. 1 point lower is Daniel Kvyat, the Toro Rosso driver, the first of the Scuderia drivers, 14th place with 12 points. Then his teammate Alexander Albon with 7 points in 15th position. Lance Stroll is 1 position behind, 6 points in 16th position. Romain Grosjean, very worryingly, 17th position with 2 points. Antonio Giovinazzi, 1 point in 18th position. And then we have the two Williams drivers of George Russell and Robert Kubica. Those sit at the bottom, of which they have since Australia. Very, very worryingly for them, they still sit with no points. Last year, Sergio Sorokin scored his first point at the Italian Grand Prix, which is in 3 races' time, to score 1 point and make it a history, I think about 20 years, since everyone on the grid has scored at least 1 point. Hopefully the Williams drivers can get some points in the remaining races, but I don't know about Germany. Anyway, so without further ado, let's jump into the predictions for the German Grand Prix. And to start with, I'm going to say in third place is going to be the Monegasque Ferrari driver of Charles Leclerc. Now, he has had 2 pole positions, no victories for him. I think he's about 4th place on the leaderboard for the most laps led without actually taking a race win. Now, it's really, really unfortunate for him. Bahrain, as I say, horrible race for him a long time ago, but we're still going to be talking about it from now. Of course, Austria, he was beaten to the line by Max Verstappen. He did deserve it, Max, but yeah, Charles Leclerc definitely should be getting the victories. He has been shown that he has had some really strong pace In Silverstone, he was battling Max Verstappen. A great battle to see. Obviously, we were down in Village. Really good for him. Really looking like it was really good from that. Max had a lot more pace, but Charles was doing some great defending in that car. Now, the Ferraris, very strong in qualifying. I think it's become apparent now that they are faster in qualifying. They can really boost the engines, but something that they can't emulate in the race. Really, really unfortunate for him. I'm really expecting big things, especially from qualifying for Charles Leclerc. Obviously, as I say, 2 pole positions for him, but no race win. He really needs to redeem himself for that. I do think that the 3rd place, I do think a podium will be good for him. Ferrari have been doing well in the Hockenheim ring. I think one of my favourite victories was Fernando Alonso in 2012 around the newly revamped and newly revisited Hockenheim ring after Nürburgring. So yes, that should be a good one to watch. Charles Leclerc doing a good job in Silverstone. Yes, I do think that he will have a good finish here in Germany. 2nd place for me, I'm going to go for Valtteri Bottas, the Finnish driver of Mercedes. Now, I do think that he is a very, very strong driver. Again, light in qualifying at Silverstone, very strong from him. Really gets the most out of the car, a really strong package. He's a really good driver, really, really strong from that. He has been supporting Lewis in the last few races. He's only got 2 victories to his name as of yet. He started out really strong in Australia. Of course, he had a great race in Azerbaijan, really cementing himself that he is not just here to support Lewis Hamilton. But in the last few races, it has been slipping that he is now going back to being Lewis Hamilton's wingman, and that's definitely not what he wants to do. He wants to stamp his authority down and become the race winner. I do think the 2nd place is going to be all that he can get from from himself. I do think that the person in 1st place will deserve it even more. But yes, I do think it'll be a good strong race from that. Now, even though it's a home race for Mercedes, they have never really been that strong around the Hockenheim ring before. Now, of course, I know you're going to say that Lewis Hamilton, starting 14th last year, clawed his way back to 1st position, or at least, let's say, 2nd before somebody retires. Now, it was great from him. That was really, really strong to see, and both of them were on the podium, along with Kimi Räikkönen of Ferrari. They did well last year, really capitalising on the changing of weather. Obviously, it started out in the dry, then went to wet. But the Mercedes have never really been that strong around here. It has been more of a Red Bull track. It has been more of a Ferrari track. Mercedes have been in the mix there, also in the old days McLaren, but obviously now not. But yes, I would say it's probably more of a Ferrari track, if you kind of count down the years from that, but definitely a good showing from Mercedes. As I say, so going back to Valtteri, really strong in Silverstone, really, really good from him, especially in qualifying. He could have won the race. Lewis Hamilton is a home driver. To put him on the kind of the correct or the more aggressive strategy for Mercedes, was probably the better option to kind of get him the win. He extended his lead as the most successful British driver 6 times now for him. Obviously, coincidence that he is now going for 6 in this year, so it's good from that. But yes, Valtteri Bottas definitely could have won the race in Silverstone. But yes, going back to Germany, 2nd place for him will be good for Valtteri. Now in 1st place, now it's a bit of a long story and why I've chosen this guy, but I'm going to now say the guy who's going to win the German Grand Prix is the man who has never won the German Grand Prix before, who has retired from last year's race, who everyone is saying that this really affected him and this was really a turning point in his career, and the man who was born 30 miles away from here in Hockenheim, and that is the man called Sebastian Vettel of Ferrari. Now, with Sebastian, now there's been a lot of stories that Seb, this was really the kind of the final nail in the coffin for Seb, that he never really, this affected him in a big way after he crashed in Germany. If you didn't know what happened, it was a rainy condition around 2/3 of the way through the race after he'd been leading for most of the race, going into the Mercedes grandstand, sector 3, I think it was about turn 14, something like that. A very small aquaplane. On the videos, it very looked like it was nothing. But basically, yeah, just aquaplane the car, a little bit of oversteer, and yes, he went straight into the gravel trap, crashed into the Mercedes grandstand, and yes, that was him absolutely out, hitting the steering wheel, swearing on the radio, and he walked down with his head held very, very low. So a lot of people are saying that this was a very turning point for Sebastian Vettel, that he never really recovered fully from this incident. Obviously, like on the Netflix series, for example, Roman Grosjean, after he crashed in Spa, said that he went to go and see a psychiatrist to kind of work out, what was going on. Sebastian Vettel, of course, has not done that, as far as we know. But, you know, people are saying that it has really psychologically affected him. Now, I don't really know what to make of that. The stats do show that since that, Sebastian Vettel did win the Belgian Grand Prix the next round after Germany of last year. But then after that, it had just been a big lapse of what Seb can really do. Not really good finishes. He has been on the podium here and there, but big crashes. Monza was a big one. He span with Lewis, then he span in Bahrain, then he span in US, then he span in Brazil, Japan. Then he crashed with Max in Britain. Yeah, a lot of people are just saying that was kind of the fault of Sebastian Vettel. Now, I don't really know what to make of that. Of course, Sebastian has not really been on form. A lot of people saying that also the V6 era, he hasn't really adapted to that. He hasn't really adapted to Ferrari. If I was going to kind of point fingers, I would kind of say that he hasn't really taken Ferrari how he should have, and I do think that his own, you know, Red Bull was really just the state. I think Seb should have just stayed at Red Bull. I'm going to just say that now. I think Seb should have just stayed at Red Bull Racing. I don't actually think he should have moved. There, I've said it, okay? You can mark me down there, I've said it. But I do think that Seb should have really just stayed at Red Bull. Yeah, so a lot of people saying that that Germany really did affect the 4-time world champion. Of course, he will have. I mean, this probably was one of the most embarrassing things of Sebastian's life, if not the most embarrassing thing. You know, crashing out in your home race after you basically had everything in the bag. The bag was zipped up. He really had the win, you know, ready for him. And the thing that his main rival at that point, who, by the way, he was leading in the World Championship by 8 points at that point, Lewis Hamilton, you know, he made a mistake. He went wide on the sausage curb. He caused a problem to his, a little bit of a problem to his car. And then he had a problem, I think it was the gearbox, was eliminated in Q2, 14th position. So basically, all of that heading into Sebastian Vettel's home race, him on pole, Lewis back in 14th, he had this in the bag, and he really did. And then this must have, it has shocked him, and it would have been embarrassing. But I don't think it affected him like everyone's saying. But that being said, though, you know, turn on 12 months. He's had a lot of, you know, contemplation about it. He hasn't had the results. He will want to be more fierce. And Ferrari, basically, this is got to be the race for Sebastian's sake. I wouldn't say more so Charles, and I wouldn't say more so the team, because the team being Italian, they would probably be focusing on the Italian Grand Prix. But for Seb, this really has to be a race where he needs to win. He needs this redemption. Redemption is going to be a word that Charles Leclerc will be saying in Bahrain 2020 because of his pole position loss. We were even saying that about China. But Sebastian needs this for redemption. Now, of course, for Formula 1 isn't like a bit of a schoolyard game. It's not like he who wants to win will win. A lot of people are saying after Bahrain that Lewis should have let Charles win because he had the slower car, kind of, you know, staying behind him, giving him a bit of a push on. Well, Lewis would have been in a lot of hot water if he did that. Formula 1 wouldn't be Formula 1 if that happened. And that is, of course, not how it works. No one's going to say, oh, well, I tell you what, guys, Sebastian Vettel, he wants to win, so let him win. You know, Valtteri Bottas, Lewis Hamilton, you might be the fastest driver, but just let Sebastian win. It's not going to work like that, unfortunately. But in himself, he will want to really turn it up. I do think that he will have a great weekend. I'm hoping that can really take as much as he can from the sessions. And as long as he plays his cards right in qualifying, because I've just said there the Ferraris are a lot quicker in qualifying, if he can play his cards right and get himself on pole position and hopefully Charles in P2, then they could have a very, very good race. But as I've just said there, two things. One, the Mercedes are a lot stronger. Or three things even. One, the Mercedes are a lot faster. Two, the Mercedes have better strategies on them, which has been proven. The Mercedes are much, much, much better at Ferrari than strategies. Their strategists, their time management is streets ahead of the Italian team. There, I said it. And of course, Ferrari are much stronger in qualifying, which they might have the edge on Mercedes in that sense. But of course, in the race, it is lacking. But I do hope that Sebastian Vettel can have a great race from that. I do think that everyone, even if you are not a Seb fan, will be watching him this weekend because it will be a good one for him. And I do think the word redemption will be chucked around a lot. But as I just said at the start, it's not who wants to win, it's who has to win. If he wants to win but doesn't, then it's only his fault. And no one's going to help him along in that way. Everyone's going to be gunning for wins. Max will be going for wins. Charles will be going for wins. Lewis will be going for wins. Valtteri, everyone will be going for the race win. it's not just that Sebastian wants it more, means that he will, but I do think that he will have the added benefit of the pressure of last year and again going into his home race. He really does need to win, especially now that the clock is now ticking for Sebastian Vettel, and also the German Grand Prix clock is ticking, because even though it is a great venue, and as I just said at the start there, it is the home of the evolution of motorsport, the German Grand Prix doesn't get the fans, is lacking at funding, and of course could be off the calendar next year, especially when Chase Carey says 3 tracks could be going. But yes, that is my predictions for the German Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc, Valtteri Bottas and Sebastian Vettel. Just quickly, you might be thinking to yourself, well, where is Lewis in all of that? Now, I do think that Lewis Hamilton will have a strong race. I just think everyone else will be a lot stronger. Ferrari, Mercedes, Ferrari, that is what my top 3 predictions are. Again, please leave your comments down in the description about what you think will happen in the German Grand Prix, the first race of the second part of the Formula 1 season. Who will win, what will happen, and mainly, I really want to hear about what you think will happen to Sebastian Vettel this weekend. All eyes are not just going to be on him. There is obviously going to be eyes on other people. Mercedes, as I've just said, it is a home race for them. Nico Hülkenberg as well, it is a home race for him. He has been out of the spotlight quite a lot when it comes back to Germany, because he is not the leading Grand Prix. He's not the leading German driver. Also, there's been quite a few German drivers who have been here and there as well, and it hasn't been really on the calendar. So maybe he can pull something out of the bag when everyone's focusing on Seb. Maybe the other home driver, Nico, he can pull something out of the bag as well. But as I say, please let me know what you think. So, of course, you have my predictions for Germany. Let's pass over to Jordan and see what his predictions are for the race at Hockenheim. Jordan?
So my top 3 for the German Grand Prix. Now, once again, it is a very difficult one to decide who's going to be on the podium, because, you know, it's been some very interesting races. You know, the past 2 Grand Prix have been absolutely brilliant, and at times have been quite unpredictable. So I think predicting once again for the podiums for the German Grand Prix, in my opinion anyways, is once again quite difficult. Well, I say difficult, you've got 6 drivers to pretty much choose from, but in order what those drivers are going to be come Sunday afternoon, well, it's anybody's guess, isn't it? Because we all thought Mercedes domination, but that wasn't really the case, was it? Well, when I say Mercedes domination, I'm obviously talking about a 100% win record, but that is not the case anymore, because Max Verstappen, of course, took that amazing Grand Prix win at Austria. So my top 3 for this weekend's Grand Prix, and I'm going to say in 3rd place, Valtteri Bottas. Bottas was unlucky not to win the Grand Prix at Britain. It should have been his to win, in my opinion. You know, he should have been in the lead once the pit stops came around, once they had finished. Hamilton, I mean, they had close battles, then Hamilton had to back off because his temperatures were getting quite high. Bottas was pulling out a bit of a gap, and then he got screwed over by the safety car. Bottas came in for his pit stop. Hamilton hadn't pitted. He was ready. He was waiting to go in for his. Giovinazzi crashes out, and then the safety car comes out, and of course Hamilton goes straight in the pits. Effectively gets a free pit stop, comes out into the lead, and goes on to win the Grand Prix, no problem whatsoever. I can't see that being the same concept this weekend. Temperatures, they're predicting to be about quite high, low 30s, high 29s. And normally when the temperatures get quite high, the Mercedes tend to struggle in those kind of conditions. So it's only predictions, but whether that is true or not remains to be seen. And of course, we'll see what happens this weekend, come practice, come qualifying. If it is really, really high, Mercedes are struggling, then I believe that the Mercedes will be off the pace. So I'm going to say Valtteri Bottas in P3. P2, I'm going to take a bit of a gamble with this one, and I'm going to say Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton is on an amazing record at the moment. 1st or 2nd place, and of course that 5th place finish in Austria. He's on an amazing run, isn't he, guys? I think he's more or less going to win that his 6th World Championship. He's going to seal it pretty soon, in my opinion. Mercedes is going to wrap up the constructors pretty soon. So it's just a case of when. You know, when is Lewis Hamilton going to win that World Championship? I know a lot of people are saying Bottas is in the fight, but for me, Hamilton is way too strong, in my opinion. And as long as Hamilton's there at Mercedes, I can't see Bottas winning a championship. I know that sounds quite controversial, and I know that a lot of you guys might doubt me on that one. But Hamilton is such a good driver. I'm not discounting Bottas. I think Bottas is also a brilliant driver. But Hamilton has something about him that just takes him over the edge just a little bit. I mean, an amazing Grand Prix win, wasn't it, in front of his home crowd at Silverstone. He will be wanting to go for the same again. I don't think it's going to be the case this time, only because the driver that I'm predicting to go into first place is the Ferrari driver of Charles Leclerc. Now, Charles has been so unlucky, hasn't he, this season? Well, I say unlucky. 2 Grand Prix this season he should have won. One was mechanical issues. The other one, he was just, well, Verstappen was just pretty much faster, wasn't he? So, he's due a race win, and I've got a feeling it's going to be this race weekend. Now, he's on I think he's got 4 podium finishes in a row. So he's on a really, really good run at the moment. And then, he's going to be, he is that, just a little bit away from that first race win. And I've got a funny feeling that it's going to be this weekend. We did see how Ferrari's race panned out last season when Vettel crashed out in the lead of the Grand Prix when the weather conditions were changing. So the Ferrari will have some good pace here. It's got a lot of straight, it's got some really good straight lines where the Ferrari can really excel. Corners, it might do well. I know Ferrari are bringing some sort of upgrades, so maybe they could, boost the car just a little bit. Ferrari are due. I'm expecting, right, and I'm predicting that Ferrari are due this surge in form all of a sudden, because I know this is such a different era, and I know that the cars are so different, but it reminds me of the 2009 season in McLaren. They started off the season so badly. Lewis Hamilton was crying out for a brand new car. Development, as time went on, they got better and better and better and started winning races on the second half of the season. But of course, it was too little too late. That's how I'm thinking that Ferrari season is going to be. It's going to be a tale of two halves. The first half, hit and miss, not good. But come Belgium, I think they're going to be so... I don't know why. I've just got a feeling that they're going to come back and just be so solid. But it is going to be too little too late. But I think Leclerc will... His career wins will kick off. I've got a funny feeling at Germany. I hope I'm right. I do hope that we see Charles Leclerc have a really good race win. Let's hope that is the case. Anyways, and yes, obviously, let us know your predictions in the comment section below. I'm just going to quickly round off with my one to watch. Now, this isn't really one to watch as such for a good reason. It's more really so for a bad reason. Now, this guy is Romain Grosjean. Now, he's had a very, very difficult 2019 season, hasn't he, guys? With Rich, Lightning, Bolt, Energy, Haas, F1 team, whatever you want to call them. Sponsoring their team. It hasn't been that good, has it? And there's been rumours circulating in the media that he's going to be replaced for the German Grand Prix. That is not going to be the case. Then there's going to be a rumour that he's going to be replaced before or even after Belgium on the start of the second half of the season. And then inevitably it's going to be, if not that, it's going to be the end of the season when he gets axed from that Haas seat. But he's got every single chance to redeem himself. I think if he does, conjure up some sort of really good performances, he might have a slight, and I'm talking, right, a little slither of a chance of keeping that seat for next season. And I'm talking a 1%. 1%, that's it, of keeping that seat, because even though he might pull out some really good results, unless he starts winning races, I can't see him keeping that seat. But he needs to start delivering performances, because that Haas car, on a 1 lap pace, it's really, really good. And then in race pace, it's just terrible. Prime example of that was Austria. I think came out qualified, was it 4th or 5th? I might have been 5th. That sounds more realistic. 5th place, and then he finishes 19th. That's Williams kind of pace, that, guys. Even Williams finished ahead of them in Austria. That's saying something. So, the Haas, well, especially Romain Grosjean, does need to kick on. So does K-Mag in a sense, but the pressure isn't really on him as such. It's more on Grosjean. And I think he might start delivering this weekend. Again, I don't want to get anyone's hopes up. If you are a Romain Grosjean fan, I don't want to put ideas in anybody's heads, and I don't want to say that this is going to happen. I just thought I'd give this one a quick mention because he's under a lot of pressure right now. And if there's ever a Grand Prix he needs to do well, it is this one. And to be fair, I will probably be saying this right up until his last drive for Haas, or maybe even in Formula 1. And just a quick one as well, guys. Mercedes are celebrating their 125th anniversary this weekend. Teaser livery has been teased. A teaser livery has been teased. Oh my god. get in the bin, John. A special livery has been teased on social media. At the time of recording, there hasn't been any official confirmation of what that livery is going to be, but it looks very, very tasty. Can't wait to see that as well. But obviously, this is where I'm wrap up my segment as well. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you agree with my predictions. Hope you agree with Lyle's. And yeah, back to the studio, Lyle.
Oof, well, I mean, we are really big Charles fans here. But we really want him to win. We really want that redemption for Charles, and it really is crazy. But yes, Jordan thinks Charles will win. I think Sebastian. It's Ferrari mania, and that's what we do. We really support Ferrari, but I've got to say, in the last few events, we have been kind of getting our predictions all muddled up. We've been saying Max won't win when he has won in Austria. We'll say Mercedes win when they don't. We'll say Mercedes won't win when they do. I said Ferrari would win in Monaco. He didn't. And yes, we're all completely over the place. But yes, Charles Leclerc, it should be a good race from him. Obviously, I had him on the podium. Jordan has him as well, but just in different spots. So that should be a very good one. Now, in this part, we're just going to mention some notable mentions to watch for this race. And to start with, I'm going to be talking about the two Haas drivers of Kevin Magnussen and Roman Grosjean. Now, it has been very, very sticky for both of those drivers, but in the last few days, there's been some mention of Esteban Ocon being dropped from the Mercedes Junior program. Big reason from that, we have talked about him and where he is going to end up. I think we did that video with Johnny's Corner. Please go and check that out if you haven't already. It should be in the eye somewhere on the screen. Him and Jordan both said that he would be in Formula E. I said that he would be somewhere else. I've forgotten where I said now. But what we didn't say was Haas. Now, Roman Grosjean has been in Haas for a few years now. He's been there since the start of 2016. He got the team the first point in Australia. Really the kind of big, brash American dream that we all loved alongside Esteban Gutierrez. Esteban was out, Roman was very much safe. Then he was with Kevin. Now, going through last year, Kevin was having better points than Roman. I think he outscored him quite a few times in that season and finished ahead of him in the World Championship points. Now, of course, if you have watched the Netflix series, for example, I'd please go and recommend you watching that. Gunnar Steiner is very Kevin mad, and yeah, Roman kind of left in the dark. And now that we've started this year, Kevin Magnussen is having some better results from over his French teammate. Kevin Magnussen sits in 12th position with Roman Grosjean in 17th. So you can see there's a big lapse in that. Kevin Magnussen has 12 more points than Roman as well. Now, it's becoming very treacherous for Roman. Also, as well, his contract is up at the end of the season. So, Esteban Ocon, very strong driver. He started out with Manor, 26 consecutive finishes for him. A very strong French driver. Has a very good reputation as well. He has been with Mercedes. Even though they're a different engine supply to Haas, it should be good. I'm sure they are definitely looking at what he did at Force India or Racing Point and what he has done in like the simulator, for example, at Mercedes. He's going to make nothing at Mercedes. Where is he going to go, and what is going to happen with Roman? Now, definitely, if Roman Grosjean is feeling that pressure, he needs a great race in Germany. Now, the two Haas drivers, the car really lacking on pace, but it is a Ferrari engine, and as I said at the start there, at Ferrari, it has suited, the Hockenheim ring has definitely suited the two Ferrari drivers, so possibly it could suit the Ferrari engine. Kevin Magnussen has had good finishes here with McLaren. I think he finished 4th in the race in 2014. Roman Grosjean has done well here with the Lotus Renault car, but yes, Kevin Magnussen very much stronger than Roman this year, and it's all numbers game this year. Roman was very close to losing the seat last year, but he was contracted till the end of this year, so it could be quite treacherous for him. But if he wants to stay, if he needs to prove to Haas that he has the car, he can get the points to finish strong. Stay out of trouble, Roman, and try and get into the top 10. Also as well, just for the team, of course, big brash American team. We love seeing them as well. So they've had some big battles last year. They battled Renault all the way to the end. I think they came out on top in that. I was a bit of a Haas fan as well when they first came in 2016. I thought I saw a new big brash team. I was like, I'm going to get a bit of them. Obviously, Roman Grosjean, I did very much like him as a driver. He was a very strong in the Lotus. Let's take out 2012, even though I kind of a little bit had a soft spot from there, even though after all of his crashes, obviously first driver in about 40 years, I think it was in Formula 1 to be excluded from a Formula 1 weekend, and a very strong driver at Haas, as I just said there. He did score their first points in Australia, which I'm going to go back to my previous stat, which you might not have heard in a long time, which was he was the first driver to score points for a brand new brand new constructor since Mika Salo scored a point in 2002 for Toyota. So there we go, it's back. The stat is back. Stat attack is back. So Haas should have a strong weekend this weekend, but definitely for Roman Grosjean as well. Kev Magnussen, they're both not out of the woods yet. I'll say Haas have been going quite strong, but yes, I do think that they really need to pull something special out of the bag. The second driver I want to talk about as well is, as I've just said before we passed over to Jordan, which is the second German driver of Nico Hülkenberg. Now, of course, Nico is a German driver, grew up quite close to the Dutch border, but of course races under the German flag, if there's any under clarification about that. Very strong driver from Renault. He has been in Formula 1 since 2010, with his only achievement being in Formula 1, is being pole position at the 2010 Brazilian Grand Prix, his debut season with Williams. Now that was good, but he can't ride that wave forever. Of course, he was the 2015 Le Mans winner in the World Endurance Championship, the WEC Porsche Super Cup, as I said, 24-hour Le Mans series, which was a very, very good from him. Of course, he needs to really emulate that. He is a strong driver to stay in Formula 1. I think Nico is contracted till the end of 2020 alongside Daniel Ricciardo. Those two really gelling together quite well. Renault really strong in the Constructors' Championship at the moment. I think they sit in 4th place. Very strong race from Canada, again doing quite well. One of those drivers in the top 10. Mr. Nearly Man, as I call him, 11th positions from him. He is in 11th position in the Constructors. Good drive from the two Renaults, but Nico Hülkenberg, German driver, home race for him. I would like to see him have a very good race from him. And I'm going to go out and just say P6 for Nico Hülkenberg. I do think that is very realistic. I do think that he can get this. It is his home race, and as for somebody who has flown under the radar for many, many years, I do think that he could do something quite special, especially when all the eyes are on Sebastian Vettel and how he can do. So all the pressure on the Weltmeister and the non-Weltmeister, or whatever it is in German, however you say that, the Nico Hülkenberg, the one pole position winner, can you say that in German? Maybe no pressure on him will actually help him, but I do hope that he will have a good race nonetheless. Both Renaults as well. Daniel Ricciardo lacking in the last few races, picking up the pace a little bit. He started out quite slowly in the season, came back at it. I remember Canada as well, obviously 2 drivers, 4th and 5th in qualifying. Good top 10 finishes for them that year. Middle season, pretty good, slipping off the constructors in the last few races, but yes, I'm hoping in the second part of the season they will be back. So yes, that is my drivers to mention. That is the end of our German Grand Prix preview. As I said at the start, guys, thank you very much for watching. Please leave your comments, please leave your predictions in the comment section below. Your top 3, top 5, top 10, or even the whole spiel, and go for the top 20, even who's going to retire. I can have a guess at who you're going to put at the back, but I'm not going to spoil anything for anyone who hasn't watched Formula 1 as of yet. Guys, make sure to keep on track with us through the rest of the second part of the season. We've got some big things coming up in the next few weeks. After Germany, we roll on to Hungary, summer break, and then we're all guns blazing for the, as they call it, the political or the flyaway part of the Formula 1 season. It should be really, really good. We are past 700, so thank you very much for everyone who has subscribed. Please tell your friends about us, share the videos, make sure to, kind of spread the name of us out there. We've been having some great responses on our videos. Please make sure to go and check out our last F1 Debate Show video, which came out last week, which is Max v Lewis. And the claim of what Christian Horner said, which is that his young Dutch driver Max Verstappen is better than Lewis Hamilton, and if you put them in the same car, he will be much faster. So please go and check that out if you haven't already. Good views on that. Make sure to check out this coming F1 Debate Show as well on Saturday in the middle of the German weekend. And yes, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, guys, we'll see you later.